Hey guys, this is Fook, and today I'm going to do a quick review and walkthrough of the preeminent PSP emulator for Android. It's also the best one you can get on a desktop platform, and it's called PPSSPP. So this is free to download, but what you'll see is that when you're playing at the end of a game, you may get an ad on this app. There's also a premium version for about $5 where the ads are removed completely. But aside from that, they function exactly the same. And on the free version, the ad does not interrupt with your gameplay at all. So if you can put up with watching a little ad when you're done playing your session, I would recommend the free version to try out and give a little bit of support to the developer of the app. So anyways, when you start up PPSSPP, it looks like this. You can go to games and pretty much surf through your uh, Android directory and find your ROMs. So for me, I just put a folder called ROMs in my download directory, and then another subfolder called PSP, and just dumped a bunch of ROMs on there. Now I'm using a Nexus 9, so it doesn't have a lot of internal storage, and there's no SD card expansion. So I've only got a couple of ROMs on here. But the nice thing about this particular emulator is that it works with almost every PSP ROM that I've thrown at it. And you can see that the interface is actually pretty nice. One of the things I love about it is that it does support a gamepad. So on modern Android devices, you can hook up a gamepad with a USB on the go cable, OTG cable, and play your games as if you were playing on the original device. I made another YouTube video on how to do that and kind of demonstrate how it works, but you can check that out if you want to. So in any case, with the emulator, there's a ton of settings that you can go in and kind of just mess around with and change. Graphic settings allows you to change the way that it renders the image. I always recommend that you keep it on buffer rendering. You can also change your rendering resolution. And what I like to do is I like to keep it on auto for the resolution. And then for the display resolution on your Android device, depending on if you have a phone or a tablet, you can choose 2 or 3 times the resolution of the native PSP. Okay, and I think that that kind of works really well. For me, on an Nexus 9 screen, 3 times the PSP resolution looks really, really good. So that's what I keep it on. The other thing that you may want to do is in the post-processing shader section, you may want to turn on the FXAA anti-aliasing. There's also a lot of other shaders that you can use, but for me, this is the one that gives me the best looking. So that's what I have it on. If your device is slow, you may not want to turn any of that on. There are also a bunch of other options that you can play around with if you like, including enabling Google Cardboard, so you can see it in kind of like 3D, which is kind of cool. But obviously, you know, on a tablet that doesn't work. But I highly encourage you to just kind of go through and play around with it. It's highly configurable. In the audio section, I just make sure that I keep the default settings that seem to work the best. If you're having problems, you can mess with it if you want to. And controls is probably where you want to spend some time when you first set it up. For me, I went into control mapping, and I basically went through every single control. So you just kind of touch what you want to map a key to, and I've mapped all of my keys to my gamepad. But you can see that there's a ton of keys here that you can play around with. Okay. You can also just let it auto configure your gaming device if you want to by just pressing that auto configure button, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. And there's some networking settings that you can change that can play multiple player games and things like that. And also in system settings, you can change the language of the UI and things like that. Okay. So most of you are probably wondering, how do the games look? Well, let me go ahead and play a couple of them and kind of give you an idea. And you can check it out for yourself. So one of the ones that I like to play is this one right here from Sony. It's actually a very fun game, and I think it's made for kids. Let me turn down the sound here a bit. So it's Loco Roco. There's a Loco Roco 2 as well. I think it was made for kids, but man, is it entertaining. So this one is basically, controlling it with the left or right button to kind of tilt the world that this little dude is in, and control it. But it's kind of neat. I mean, it's a simple concept, but man, is it fun to play. So you can see that, when I press right, the world tilts to the right, and the little guy rolls in that direction. And pressing left does the opposite, and he rolls back the other way. And that's basically the whole game. If I press both at the same time, he jumps. He kind of bounces up. And once he grows, you can see that number in the upper left-hand corner. I can hit a button to split him up, and then I can hit and hold that button to get him back together. But you can kind of see that the gameplay is very smooth. The graphics looks excellent. I mean, if you put this up against a modern Android game from the Google Play Store, I don't think that it will have any problems competing. So anyways, that's gameplay, and this is how one of the games look. If I go back in the middle of the game, one of the cool things that the emulator has is kind of this save state, where if I touch this button, save state, it basically saves exactly where I am in the game, and I can then exit the game if I want to. But then later on, when I come back and I hit load state, it brings me back to exactly where I was before. So even if your game does not support saving, this feature is just awesome. Okay. Let me go ahead and show you exit to the menu here. And so here's an ad that I was kind of telling you about. It doesn't interrupt gameplay, but it's just a way for the developer to kind of get a little bit of revenue to support himself, and it only comes up on the free version. So let me go ahead and play another game and kind of show you how that works. Let's go with Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins. Sure. Why don't we begin the game anyways? So this is another game that's kind of a classic, and more than try to show you what it's all about, I just want to demonstrate kind of the gameplay, so you can see how the graphics look and things like that. Okay. And as you can see, I mean, on a big tablet screen, this looks pretty awesome. So basically, that's the gameplay there. I'm not very good at this game. I haven't played for a while, but you kind of get the idea of how it looks. Okay. And you can see that the graphics with the anti-aliasing is just pretty awesome. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm playing Final Fantasy III for PSP and kind of just replaying that game. It's been a long time since I've played it, but gosh, it's just a lot of fun using the emulator. Okay. So anyways, this is PPSSPP. It is a great PSP emulator, the best out there. Just works super well, and I encourage you to give it a go. Check back on my channel here for more emulator reviews, especially for Android or iOS devices. The only thing is that with iOS devices, you do have to have it jailbroken before you can use emulators, but that's a different issue. Anyways, I will see you next time, guys.